And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and we are your hosts today, Nate and Thomas, the paranoid motherfucking American.
Yeah, I guess I'm still paranoid. Yeah, fuck it.
We're talking to Dusty McBalls. We got a homie that put us in touch with you. You've kind of got a newish show, right? And dude, we want to fucking give you some fucking views and some fucking folks. So everybody go out. Find Dusty McBalls, follow him on all of his socials, all that fun stuff. Dusty, this is the first time on your show. Why don't you tell our audience the best places to find you?
You can find me on Spotify or any podcast platform at The Rainy Day Horror Show, and my Instagram. The one that I'm mainly on is The Rainy Day Horror Show, and my personal is Dusty McBalls.
Dusty McBalls. All right, brother. So what's going on, Dusty McBalls?
Nothing. Just hanging loose, living the best paranormal life I could live.
Fuck yeah, dude. I've been listening to your show. I like your show. I listened to, I think, 3 or 4 episodes today. They're fucking easily digestible, so they're not like crazy long, and they're about interesting topics. You kind of have like a fucking, I don't know what the word for it is, but you kind of have like a Mr. Ballin thing going on where you guys like cover an interesting story and little aspects, but then you also have some degeneracy in there, or like some pussy and dick jokes, which I enjoy and appreciate. So
that's the only reason you go.
Yeah, I try to cover basically anything. Like my main gist is paranormal, true crime, and for some reason I fell in love with urban legends and just the way that those stories are all passed down. Like my favorite one so far that I did was on the Kuchisaki Ono, and
I listened to that one.
Yeah, it's just crazy how different cultures have their different urban legends, and I love learning about their version of,
So does she ever smash? Like, is there any, because you were talking about it. So for anybody that's not familiar with this story, it's I don't remember how she died originally, right? But it's a ghost of a woman who got her face slashed. So she got from here to here, she's got the smiley, right?
Yeah.
And she appears to you as this sexy geisha girl, and she asks you, "Am I sexy?" And you're like, "Do you want to fuck me?" And then you say, clearly, he's like, "Yeah, I want to see that thing. Is it sideways? I've heard that. I don't know." So then you say this to this beautiful geisha woman, and then she shows you her real face. It's all fucked up, and then she asks you again, "Am I sexy?" And if you say no, she killed your ass. Or if you like kind of stumble on the question. So
how many beers in are we?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on.
Let's see that dumper, bae. Yeah.
Well, and then sorry, what was the name? It was Kuchisaki Ono.
One. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's a badass name.
Yeah, it's that urban legend was like, all urban legends are like hard to research because that one they didn't say how she died, so I just assumed that she died from depression. Because that's where
did she live after she got all cut up, supposedly, or?
Well, so what happened was the main story that most people believe is that she cheated. Her husband was a samurai. She was unfaithful, cheated on him, and then he found out, and he slashed her face and said, "Who's going to find you pretty now?" and basically kicked her out of the house. So I'm assuming she probably got really depressed, committed suicide, and then she came back as this haunting omen to people.
Yeah, crazy.
What if you pass the test?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Does she smash? Have you heard any story from this that like she's like, all right, and then she gives you a crazy whatever?
Well, it's
thousands of years of sexual frustration pent up.
It's funny because it's either if you say yes, you are pretty, and you walk home, she might still come home and kill you, or she just lets you be. And I've also, like, the newer versions of this story is you can throw this Japanese candy at her and run away, or if you say pomade 3 times because for some reason she fucking hates pomade, she will just run away from you. And it's also said in Japanese lore that demons can't go around corners or go up a flight of stairs. They can only go in a straight line. So I don't really know. There's a whole lot.
I wish there was
Weird
hard
bits.
and fast rules to demons like that. All you had to do is go upstairs.
It's like a
Jump
chessboard.
around.
You're only allowed to move diagonal, my dude.
Yeah, that's fun, dude. So I mean, she's almost, well, not quite. I was gonna say she's almost like a succubus at this point, but she's like kind of like a siren. She's like kind of like fucking with you, and she like appears sexy,
Mhm.
and she kind of like lures you in with her beauty, and then she shows you her real face. It's almost like a
Mhm.
banshee. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
samurai, so this is like a Japanese folklore from
I
what period of time?
I think I traced it back to the 1600s. I think it was like 1609. No, wait, I take that back. It reappeared in the 1600s, but I think it was around 492 CE, but I could be wrong. It was a long ass time ago when this
CE, that's
story-
very secular of you, sir. No, I'm just kidding.
That's some fascinating shit, buddy. You were telling me something. I don't know if you want to get to this now. I haven't heard your trail story. You were talking about
Oh.
a trail story.
Yeah,
You're the captain of this ship. Steer us where we're going, man.
the trail story is probably I tell it on every podcast I go on just because it's a really good story. It's like basically straight from a movie, but the one thing that I am nervous about always telling this story is if somebody that's like goes there to cleanse the land, because the demon at this trail knows that I talk about it and he tells me not to tell people this story, but I do it
You're an
anyways because I don't
idiot.
really, yeah, I just don't really care. And so I'm afraid that if somebody goes there and tries to cleanse the land or where he's at, I feel like he's going to come straight for me and attach himself to me because he knows that I gave up his position.
Just go
because
around the corner, dude. You're good. Just go
Oh,
upstairs.
That's only in Japan, though.
Quit being a bitch.
that's the only thing I'm kind of nervous about. But at the end of the day, I really I don't think anybody's going to go there with after how I explain everything. And because, yeah, it
I'm
gets
intrigued.
dark.
I want to hear about this demon. Okay.
Okay. So it was right when I met my girlfriend and we were seeing each other. This was probably back in like February, March. Yeah, February. And one night, it was Valentine's Day, and we were going out. Well, it was like a last minute Valentine's. She was like my last minute Valentine's just because we just met each other. And we went to the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. And then we hung out there for a little bit. And then we're like, well, the night is still young. Like, what else do you want to do? And I was like, I know this trail that I used to walk around in like high school when I wasn't doing anything. I was just bored. I just go walk at this trail. I was like, we could go there and walk. And so
That's a lot of trust she has, dude. You're a fucking brand new dude. She doesn't fucking know very well. It's nighttime, Valentine's Day. But hey, you want
It's
to go
called
on the
Murder
hiking
Trail.
you know what's funny? Like earlier,
She must be charming or she's stupid. One or the other.
The Black Hatchet Trail. Yeah.
it's funny because I told her not that night, or maybe it was that night. And I was just joking around with her. I was like, yeah, I have that Ted Bundy charisma.
I mean, honestly, dude, you kind of give me the creeps. I would think you might want to fuck me and kill me. Maybe not me, but if I was like a young woman, I'd be like, this guy might want to. You kind of give me cannibal vibes, just slightly, but not in a bad way. Just like I can see you eating a person, anyways. So
It's very presumptuous of you, Nate.
yeah, did he want to eat me? I'm spicy.
Well,
dude.
like just the female version of
Hey,
you. Just
I thought it'd be good.
you think Ted Bundy would go after female Nate?
Ted Bundy, yeah, I think so, dude. I got legs, dude. Like I've done, like I did Rocky Horror Picture Show. I won a costume contest once. I got up there, spread my ass, and shook my nuts on stage. Like I was a real fucker. I won first place and got a lollipop. That was the fucking prize. But whatever.
It's
True
the
story.
face. It's the face tattoo, isn't it? It's the
But also that like pale corpse skin.
Well, see, my
Do you
girlfriend.
go outside? Are you allowed to like see the sun?
Well, I'm actually a vampire according to my girlfriend
Yeah.
and her best friend because I like it cold and I like it dark. So according to them, I'm a vampire.
That tracks. All right.
But anyways, we get to this trail and we're walking. So we park, and then as you start walking into the trail, it goes down a hill and then it goes back up a hill. And we were going on the other side, we were going up that hill again. And my girlfriend dead stops in the middle of the trail and says, "Hey, is there somebody up there on the trail?" So I whip out my phone and I hit the flashlight and I was like, "No, there is nobody up there." And she's like, "Well, there's a man and he's angry and he does not want us here." And she was like, "I think we should just call it a night, go home and just leave him alone." I was like, "Okay, cool." So we start walking back and she noticed this like little black blob that was like kind of like running through the snow and the weeds a little bit. And she looked at me and said, "Did you see that?" I said, "See what?" She's like, "There was just this like dog that was running through the woods." And I was like, "No, I didn't see anything." And she's like, "That's weird." And so we start walking back to the car, and as we walk back to the car, something grabs on her pant leg. And she screams. I'm terrified, so I like jump and we just get in my car and then we drive off, and that was that. I After that I dropped her off at home and I drove myself back to my house, went to bed, woke up the next morning and she started texting me that she started doing research on that trail. And she's like, "Hey, this is the man that I saw last night." And she sent me the photo because it was a picture of him on the like on the website. And she's like, "And this isn't the only paranormal experience that I guess has happened at this trail." She also told me that his granddaughter, when she went into the cellar, she would feel stuff like grab her or brush by her. And she said that there were paranormal things going on in that house. And so we were like, okay, well, let's go to my local library or my city hall and figure out like what's going on with this trail. And so his name, the guy that she saw is Carl, by the way. His name's Carl. So
Carl Pansram? Who are we talking about?
who?
Anyways, keep going. And the serial killer.
Oh, huh. Sounds like an episode idea.
Oh,
But
dude, you should definitely cover Carl Pansram. Holy goddamn shit.
I will. I will have to. I'm coming out with the serial killer episode tomorrow, and I'm so psyched about it. But so we go next day, we go to my library, and they say, "We have nothing on that like park. Like there's nothing on that trail, there's nothing on that park." And we're like, "That's weird. That's a little weird. Why wouldn't you have anything on it?" And she was like, "Go to the city hall and they might have stuff on it." Go to the city hall, nothing. And now we're kind of tripping out. We're like, what happened at this trail? And so the people at City Hall pointed us to like the county City Hall, the county, whole county thing. And we go there, and she was like, well, we got there and we walked into it and walked into the library, still had nothing. So then we go to like the county part of the city hall. And once we get in there, we were going to go to like the park and rec place because they had their own little office, and we were going to talk to them about like, "Hey, what's going on with Ritter Farm Park? Like, we want to know." And they were closed. So these two sheriffs were like, "So what do you guys want to talk to them about?" And then we told them our story of like what happened up until this point. The male sheriff was like, "Okay, whatever." But the female sheriff, she was like, "Okay, tell me more." And we were telling her what happened the day like previously, like a few hours ago. And she was like, let me do some digging. Help you guys out." So she brought out her phone and she's like, "Go to the National Honor Society in St. Paul. And then after that, go to this place in Hastings where you can look up the plot numbers." So the next day we go home because everything was closed. And the next day we go to the National Research Honor Society. And we find out that Carl, his name wasn't on the land. He didn't own it. It was his brother that owned it. And what happened was this farm had like 400 acres. It was huge. And we assumed that his brother bought it maybe because Carl didn't have enough money or anything to like be able to purchase it, and they split the land. And his brother, we think, got the south part of it, and Carl got the north part of it. And we're doing some more digging, and on the website it said that he had 2 younger daughters. Well, when we were digging into his name, we found out that he had also had 2 younger sons that didn't mention him at all. Didn't mention them at all. And so we're like, that's weird. Why did they not mention the sons? And we started digging a little bit more, trying to find like an obituary, a death certificate, a birth date, just anything. Him and his wife didn't have a birth date or death certificate or an obituary. And we asked the lady at the National Honor Society, like, hey, why don't they have this? And she told us it could be a number of reasons. They might not have a death certificate because they weren't baptized, or they were just really awful in the community and did some awful things that they wanted to erase them from their town's history. So we're like, that's kind of weird. So we left there and we went to Hastings to look up the plot number. We get there, we look up the plot number, and we find out that it was first bought in like the late 1800s, and it was sold off in like 1906 to this guy named Gordon and his family. Well, we found out that Gordon died because of an aneurysm or heart failure. And then they sold the farm to Carl and his family. And then Carl and I think his wife. I think it was Carl and his wife. Both of them died of heart failure. And then after that, the Ritters bought it, and two of them died of an aneurysm, and one of them died of heart failure. And then my city bought it and made it like this, park for people to go to with their dogs and stuff like that. And it's been like that ever since. So that would have been like they sold it to the Ritters in like the late 70s, early 70s. And then the Ritters sold it to my town around like the early 90s, around there. And I was like, that's really, really weird. So I started doing some more digging after we left there on just the internet, just trying to see if who else has died at this like farm, because I was just really confused on why and all of the deaths were like extremely similar. So I knew it had to be something negative attached to this land. So I started looking to see if anybody else has died on this land. And I started talking to people at like bars or anything just to see what they could come up, if they knew anything. Well, I could only trace it back to the late 80s where people have been dying on this farm. One guy died in 1981 because a drug deal went wrong, got killed, and his body got dumped at this farm. And then in 2014, some of the students at my high school, they were taking an ecology class, and they found bones of a man that went missing from 2010 at this farm. And then in 2022 or 2021, a dude committed suicide. He shot himself in the head with a shotgun at that farm. And then I asked my mom, I was like, why is there so many like deaths going on here? And she told me, she's like, these aren't the only ones. People were committing suicide at this park since I was in high school. And she was in high school in like the mid 90s to like 2000. And I was like, that's weird. And for like this entire time, me and my girlfriend could not figure out like what happened, like what truly happened to Carl. So we were just like, well, we know he's there. Let's just go ask him. So we go to the park and we start walking and we see him. And this time, like, we couldn't even talk to him because like he showed his aura. My girlfriend, she can read auras. And he showed his aura to my girlfriend, and it was red. It was just really powerful to her. And she basically like started getting really woozy and almost collapsed. And we had to walk back to my car. And as we were walking back to my car and we were pulling out, it kind of comes by like this mobile home, and there's like a gas station, a Perkins, a Cracker Barrel all around there. And we see like this, it's like 11 o'clock at night and the park's closed. There's nothing's open. And we see this black figure probably around like 5'10", and he was not wearing reflective gear like at all. And there's nothing he could have been walking to or like doing at that time of night. And she sees him first and she starts like tapping on like my door handle. And I was like just paying attention to my speed, so I didn't really hear it. And then she grabbed my wrist. I looked up, I saw it, I screamed like a horror movie scream. And I just booked it through the mobile home because it was like right after the turn a little bit. So I just went right, took a right, and then I just went through the mobile home, and I was like, that's it. Gave me a panic attack, but that was the least of what was going to happen. So a week goes by, and then we decide to go back and like try to actually like get and provoke and try to get stuff out of Carl. So we go back there, and he notices us right away, and he starts shaking his head like he's disappointed in us that we're back.
So
And
you can see this apparition now?
I can't see him.
So-
Only my girlfriend can.
Okay. So she's seeing this thing and it's shaking his head at you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you dumb fucks are back here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we should have took his warning, but we didn't. And we just were like, whatever. We can't get anything out of him. This is just stupid. Why are we even here? So we go back to the car.
What did you bring with you? Did you bring a Ouija board? Did you bring like a dildo? Like what kind of equipment did you have to talk
We bring, so I do have a Ouija board. When we go on our paranormal investigations, I bring it just to stir stuff up, just to see, what can happen. But I don't use it. I just bring it as like, hey, I'm here kind of thing. And we do, in my backpack, I do have salt and I do have candles just in case. So we go back.
I never even thought about bringing salt, but I think that's probably pretty important.
I feel like I'd bring a gun, even if you can't shoot a ghost.
Paranormal
Yeah, she's the one that's putting me all into this. Like, she's like very, very protective of like when it comes to paranormal stuff. So like, she's like, did you bring the salt? Did you bring the candles? Or did you bring? She makes me check all of the boxes just to make sure we're safe.
That would be my wife too. Yeah, she keeps me organized and stuff.
How do you do the salt?
Fly by the seat of my pants.
What do you do with the salt to protect yourself?
If it gets crazy, to my knowledge, you fucking make a circle of salt.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like how supposedly a demon can't go around a corner. Well, he can't break the salt circle.
Yeah.
Does that mean if you like ran and
It's a
hid in a
protection
McDonald's, or is like running into a McDonald's like running into a church? Like you could just hide from demons because it's like covered in salt?
I wish.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're good. Like, but if it's a Jew demon, then
God,
I think kosher won't work because then they can get past it. You have to use like maybe pure sea salt or something. I don't know.
It's gotta have iodine in it.
So I don't know. You got to find out. You got to ask him if he's a Jew because maybe you can't use the kosher salt. What kind of salt do you use? Is there a particular salt that you use?
I just use the normal.
Just use like iodine and shit. Just use Morton's? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I use. That's what we use. And we also wear
I'd
evil
blow
eyes.
that shit away if I was a demon. I'd be like, you fucking brought Morton's?
Where's the garlic salt? Where's the Tony Chachere's?
And so we also wear evil eyes. My girlfriend, she practices Puerto Rican magic. She doesn't do dark magic or anything like that, but she does do Puerto Rican magic. And
she start before or after salt was used as a payment. I don't know. Do you know any lore about the salt?
I do not. I haven't really.
Has your girlfriend been on your show yet? You should probably bring her on to talk about this demon story.
We plan on starting. I plan on because I do 4 videos a week, which is a lot, but I plan on adding a 5th video here probably within a month, where it's just going to be me and her talking about our experiences or doing like a true crime breakdown or anything paranormal related. So eventually she will be on my channel. Yes.
Word.
You
Okay,
said
that's
Puerto
cool,
Rican
man.
magic. Is that Santeria or is it something else?
You know, that's a good question. I've never really asked her. I just, whatever she says,
Is
I
your
just
girl
believe
Puerto
her.
Rican?
Yes.
Okay, so she's a saucy Latina and shit. So she was like
Yes.
talking shit to that fucking demon. She was like, "Oh no, you fucking don't."
Surprisingly, she is very respectful when it comes to dead people. Because she gets real sassy with me real quick. But but we make it to the car and we're just kind of relaxing for a minute, taking a deep breath in, and she looks up out the front of my window and says, "There is something right in front of your car, and the bottom half of it is like a horse. Like it looks like a minotaur, except the top half is more human." And that's what she's describing to me. I can only see, I can see sometimes and I can hear a little bit, but I'm not as good as she is. So when we go on these investigations and stuff like that, she is my eyes and ears and I ask all the questions. And she
So
just replies.
Cherie just dropped a comment here, and I thought it was a good one. She says that she sees him and she taps you. You scream and drive off, but go back there and see him when she sees him shaking his head. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So like maybe this demon thinks you're a cuck. Like he's it's like your girlfriend sees this ghost. You're the one screaming and driving off. He's like, bitch.
Well, oh, it gets even funnier. Trust me. And so she's telling me this, and she's like describing him to me. She's like, looks like a minotaur, except he's got more of a human upper torso, and he's got black eyes. And from what I've heard from listening,
how do you know this is Carl?
It's
like,
not Carl.
Carl was killed, but okay, that's what I was gonna ask. It was like, how the fuck do you know that this is Carl's the demon?
So
No,
now
no,
she's
no.
seeing like a bull kind of guy, right?
Yeah. Carl, and it'll come up later again in the story with how many spirits we realized are there. So, and he's like looking at us, and she's like, "Hey, let's go home." And I was like, "Okay, cool," because I don't want to. In the beginning, I was like, I don't want to push it with her, just because I get more ballsy because I can't see things, so I want to stay longer. I want to go where everything's bad, but like this demon terrifies her. So we leave, and as we leave, his voice comes through to her and says, "You'll be back." And he's like, "I know you'll be back." And so
he's got a thing for her, dude. You gotta be careful.
Yeah,
He's trying to get your girl.
You know, I didn't
bull.
even think about
Like,
that.
you'll be back. You'll be
I didn't
back.
even, I didn't even think about that until it was just brought up. But he could be. And so we didn't go back for a little bit just because we wanted to let
Where's
it
your
calm
girlfriend
down.
right now, dude?
She is.
She's just walking around the trail.
I hope she's at the house. I haven't checked her location yet today, but I hope she's at the house.
Just chilling with a fertility god. It's all cool.
And so we don't go back for like a couple weeks just because we wanted everything to die down and just wait it out. And then we're like, well, let's go to the south side of the park, see if he can cross over the highway and go over there. And we go over there, and it's maybe 9-10 o'clock at night again. And right as we enter, I have this really creepy photo. I will send it to you guys, and I'll show you. It is so eerie. And as we enter the park, I'm taking pictures and stuff like that. And we start heading down one of these trails. And right once we enter it, my girlfriend says, something just growled at us. And I was like, oh, cool. Whatever. Things growl at us all the time. I was like, let's just keep going. She's like, okay, cool. Keep walking. And then she hears a little girl asking for her mom. And she can't find her mom. She's like, Mom, where are you? And she's just doing it over and over again. And we kept walking. And then it like You know, in like the horror movies where it's like the willow trees that are like hanging over the road as you drive through and it looks really majestic. Well, imagine that just with a bunch of birch trees and they're just completely dead because it is still almost like still winter. Our winter here doesn't end up until like mid-April. And so it's just this tunnel of like these dead birch trees that are just overlapping each other. And we're walking and then she dead stops and she's like, there is somebody down there who does not want us here and is very, very upset that we're here. And he is walking towards us very, very quick. And I was like, okay, cool. So we turned around and we started walking away again. And then we started hearing more things growl at us and just kept happening.
So at this point, you can start to hear this stuff too?
I can, yeah, because we've been doing it so much that I'm starting to like pick up on things, or like I can feel if someone's behind me, or like I'm able to now be able to pick up on things. And we make it to my car, drive
What's
home.
that called? Like a shared delusion where if you're spending too much time with a schizo, you can catch it too.
Is that true? No?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you could totally get sucked into somebody else's delusion. Like if they have like a strong personality, then like. Anyways, I'm not saying that, but it's just funny. It cracked me up.
Mhm.
Yeah, they made a movie about it. It was a good one. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the name.
And we get to my car, drive home, and then the next day we go to the normal place where we usually find everything that's bad, and we start walking during the day. And we walked the probably like 50% of that trail before we had to turn back. And as we enter the trail, I look to my left and there is this like tree that was either struck by lightning or burned down, but it's been dead for a really, really long time. And I look at the side of it and there's like it's like black char. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like it looks like someone just had a fire over there within the last couple nights. And I was like, but I won't pay attention to it too much. We'll just walk this trail, see if we can pick up on anything. So as we're walking, there are these two horses and they saw us and they were completely fine. And my girlfriend looked because they were coming down we were on the right side of the path, they were on the left side. And we got like halfway near them and my girlfriend looked over to her right and she's like, there's somebody over there watching us. And right when she said that, both horses reared up and like started getting spooked. And then the ladies that were riding the horse, they apologized. They didn't mean to scare us. And we're like, it's fine. It's whatever. And we kept walking and we got to this clearing and we saw this couple that was walking towards us. And they were in like hiking stuff and they were, they'd been there for a little bit and they've probably been hiking there since the morning. And we get up to this clearing and we see them come to us. Now, this part really spooked me. And as the husband was in front of the wife and they were about to pass us, but like 45 degrees behind me, the wife just dead stops. And she looks over at us and says, don't go any farther. And we're like, what do you mean? She's like, do not go any farther. And then her tone changed to like a more like not as aggressive tone. And she was like, there's a puddle up there. My husband stepped in it and his like whole leg is wet. Well, we looked at his leg as she was talking and it wasn't wet. And the entire time that she's talking to us, I was like, is she real? Like, there's no way. Like, why would you have stopped 45 degrees behind me to tell me? You'd have stopped directly in front of me and told me like, hey, there's a puddle up there. Don't go any farther. And so I was just spooked the entire time. And after that interaction, we get up to where this bend is where the lady said that this puddle was at. And there was no puddle. Like it was just dry ground.
You kept going, you ignored this bitch. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We're like,
Birch, please.
and we get to this turn and there's no puddle. There's no snow. Like this was just, this was when the snow was almost melted, so the ground was still kind of wet and muddy, and there was no snow. And we don't know if she was talking about there, because when we started walking again, like 100 yards down the trail, there was like this, you know how when the snow is melting, there might be like a layer of ice or like snow on top, and then under it, there's like water. My girlfriend stepped into something like that and got her whole leg wet. And we're like, why was she talking? Like, there's where this puddle is, there was no bend. So like, was she talking about here or what? And my girlfriend's like,
It's also
well,
an odd thing to fucking say too, because she could have warned you about a puddle, but she was like, "Don't go any further."
yeah, yeah, it was really, really weird. And so my girlfriend's like, my foot is fucking freezing. Like, can we turn around, please? I was like, sure. And as we turn around, all of a sudden, my girlfriend starts getting pushed around and like tripped by like entities that are just fucking with her. And then she starts hearing like women arguing, women screaming, men yelling at each other, just a whole lot of bad shit.
I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. If I experienced this shit, I would never go hiking again. I would never go on another trail.
Well, just not with her.
So you think we would learn, but we plan on going back to that trail soon. So
This is always the same trail.
this is always the same trail.
Is there no other trails in your town?
There is, but this one is the most interesting to us.
Okay.
And as we're walking back and all of this, like she's getting pushed, tripped, and she's hearing all of this stuff, we make it back to where that tree was, and I pointed it out. I was like, is that weird to you? And she's like, don't go over there. She's like, I have a really bad feeling about something over there. I was like, well, let me just go look. Let me go check it out. So I veer off and I go to this
You
tree.
leave her by herself when she's like
Yeah.
shaking and cold, and you're like, just hold up, bitch. I'm gonna keep going. And
Chivalry.
she's like warning you, don't. And you're like, just sit here. I'll be back.
It is the
Like, meanwhile,
definition.
entities are pushing her around. And you're
Yeah.
like, hold up.
It is
Okay,
the
all right.
it is the definition of chivalry at its finest. And so I go to this tree and I look at it. She's like, don't touch anything. Whatever is over there, do not touch it. I was like, okay, fine, I won't touch it. Gosh. And so I look at this tree and there's a hole in it. And around the tree, not like around the entire tree, but like around the front half of the tree, there are these campfire coals that have just looked like they have been there, like I said, for a couple days. Like somebody was just over here. And the weird thing is you cannot camp on this trail. It's only open from like 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 at night. Like you cannot.
Do they
There's no
actually stop
camping.
your hobos from like camping and stuff? Like you can, like normal people won't be allowed to camp places, but like I live in Portland, Oregon, near
Mhm.
Portland, Oregon. Hobos can camp wherever the fuck they want. They can literally take over a sidewalk and it's just theirs now.
All you have to
I
do
don't
is
know what
look
it's like in
belligerent enough,
Michigan.
and yeah, they won't bug you.
It's
My
funny
beard
because
is long enough. I just need to have more like crumbs and like cigarette burns on my shirt.
And you need like 4 or
Yeah,
5
and
jackets
I'd be all
on.
right.
in Atlanta, they took over a whole fucking forest. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that.
Like a
But-
hobo,
hobo
forest?
forest?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds
Dude,
way
I
scarier
found
than
a
a
hobo
haunted
forest.
forest.
And there's huge
Dude, well, back
protest.
today. Oh,
There's
go
huge
for it, man.
There's huge protests down there right now because the city of Atlanta wants to take like this forest is huge, but they have a lot of invasive species in this one spot. Like it's I think like
that's
10
that's what they're calling them now. They're calling the hobos an invasive species, right?
They
And-
kind of are. They destroy the environment. It's pretty gnarly.
Do you guys have,
I'm
do you
not
have
kidding.
10
They literally. Sorry, go
Do you
ahead.
have 10
Go ahead.
do you have tent cities out in Portland?
The whole thing's a
Yeah,
tent
we do
city.
too. Yeah, we do too.
Dude,
Tent
Portland is
Dropolis, yeah.
notorious for this shit. I mean, like Portland, it's so bad that like, well, they keep going back and forth. The city will decide that like, hey, we're done with them, and so then they'll like wipe them all out and put them in these like official tent cities, and they put them in
Mhm.
these like they like put them on like an Indian reservation, basically for hobos.
Yeah.
And then they venture out, and then they kind of like protect them, and like the cops aren't even allowed to like move their stuff half the time. I mean, I have like a soft spot in my heart for hobos sometimes too, but it's kind of like, can you not do it right here? Because like, anyway,
I love the idea of like a special reservation, and they have like reservation police, so it would have to be hobo police that patrol their own little
the
hobo.
hobos, manage themselves, police themselves. Dude, I'll tell you guys a quick little story from my childhood. I was probably 16 years old, and we're walking down in like Old Town, like Eureka. We're near kind of like the bay, but not like quite near the bay. So this is Eureka, California, also a hobo hub, hardcore hobo hub. And we see like there's these thick ass bushes, and we see a hole in it. And it kind of reminds me of like Totoro. We're like this mystical little hole in the bushes. We're like, what's down there? Let's go check it out. So like we were like venturing through this little tunnel, and we find ourselves in this like brand new crazy world, dude, where it's all like hobo shacks. And like these dudes, like it was legit as fuck, dude. They'd built forts out of pallets, and like it was elaborate and cool as shit. And
It
like
sounds cool. It really
Dude,
does
dope.
sound cool, man. It's just like an adult pillow fort with more disease.
Well, we'll get to that. So we're walking around, and it's dope, dude. Like it's cool. Everybody has their own little village too. Like there's like little corners and this and that. Like it's really fucking cool. And it's like kind of through a slough, and it's kind of through like wetlands, kind of. So
I'm imagining the movie Little Monsters when they go under the bed and it's like this huge
Yeah.
landscape.
Dude, it was really like that, dude. But like they set up like pallet roads, like so that you could get through. Like they built like trails. Like
Is this
through
all
whole
underground,
road.
or are we above ground now?
It was above ground. It was just
Okay,
hiding
okay.
behind these dense ass bushes. They cleared it out and made a village in like where you'd never know that it existed. And like so we're hanging out, and like we're like trying to like score drugs or something. We were like 15, 16. So we're like talking to these hobos. We like knocked on somebody's like thing and talked to him. And my buddy was like talking to this one homeless girl that was probably kind of cute, definitely speed bumps. You know, I mentioned a little popped up, and like he like acquired a blowjob for $20. So he went back into the thing, and he was back there. And I'm just looking around. He's getting his dick sucked. I'm just looking around. There's no way I'm letting one of these people touch my dick, dude. I'm very protective of my penis. I don't want any weird diseases. My buddy's a little fast and loose. And I'm walking around, and then I don't know how I didn't notice this before, but the entire ground, like every square inch, are those little orange caps from heroin needles. They're hypodermic needles. The entire ground. It's like I was like in a fucking field of poppies. Everything was so orange, and we didn't notice until we were in the middle of it. And then all of a sudden, there was like needles fucking everywhere, and you could not see them now that you can see them. And I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And anyway, so I grabbed my buddy after he was done, and we got out of there. And we didn't score any fucking weed or anything off these people because I didn't want to be there for another second. Anyways, I'm very sorry. So, Dusty McBalls, you have now abandoned your girlfriend, even though she's being harassed by demons, and you're like, hold up, I'm gonna go investigate after she begged you not to. Okay, now she's alone and scared by herself. Pick back up where we are. Okay.
So I see all this like this charcoal. I was like, this is weird. So I go back and I said, hey, there was a hole in the tree, and there was a bunch of charcoal, like somebody just lit a campfire around like the base of the front of the tree. And she was like, that is really, really weird. And we're like, well, whatever. And we walked back to the car, and I had the bright idea. I was like, hey, let's come back tonight and let's see if that demon is still here. And she's like,
you're an asshole.
She's like, perfect. She's like, perfect. Okay, whatever.
Dude, you guys are fucking made for each other. She's an idiot and you're an asshole.
And so we go back to my house. We just hang around for a little bit until 10 o'clock comes, go back there, and we see a bunch of we see deer in this area. And she was like, hey, I just want to let you know, deer are like good omen. I was like, okay, cool. So maybe it's not going to be awful tonight. I was wrong. And we're sitting there.
We're going to have you back on, but I want your girlfriend to come on too, because
okay.
I need her to explain herself. Keep going. Sorry.
And so we're just waiting in the car. Good 5, 10, 15 minutes pass by, and he shows up again, and he's looking dead at us.
Can you see him now?
I can't. I can't. And he tells me why in a little bit. And I'm sitting there and he starts like looking at us, and my girlfriend tells me he's here, and I decide to roll down my window and start talking to him. And I rolled down my window and I was like, so what happened to Carl? And he just ignored me. And I was like, are you responsible for all of the deaths that are happening at this like farm, like at this like trail? And he was like, I call all of them home. Everybody that dies here, I call them home. And then he looks at my girlfriend and he goes, it's time for you to come home. And so in my mind, I was like, hold up. In a past life, were you maybe into dark black magic and you just, just don't remember it or anything like that? And she was like, possibly, but she's like, I'm not like that anymore. I go, I know, obviously, otherwise this shit would be a lot worse. And I'm like, so I was like, I just asked him, I was like, are you a demon? And he goes, wouldn't you like to know? And
That's
then
why I asked the question. God damn it!
This guy, the ghost is also Puerto Rican at this point.
He's being saucy.
He's being fucking sassy. Yeah. What do you think, bitch?
And so I was like, do you know my full name? And he said my entire full name. And I was
Dusty
like, how do you
Nick Balls.
And I asked him, I was like, how do you know that? And he goes, I'm all knowing. And then we started talking to him some more about, I forgot what I was saying because this happened so long ago that like, this is why sometimes I need my girlfriend here so she can like, because she has a really good memory and she can be like, hey, this is what also you asked.
Where's she at? Bring her over. Have her come over.
And so she was like, we were talking back and forth, which is weird. This is like, I know everybody's paranormal experiences are different from one another, but from what I've listened to on other people's podcasts and from what other people say, they don't really have full-blown conversations with spirits where I can. Like my great grandpa who passed away when I was 2, he'll just randomly pop up into my room and we'll have a full-blown conversation for like an hour and a half, and then he'll get bored and leave. Or like we have 3 children that are just somehow, this is weird. This is also another weird tangent, and they just follow us everywhere we go. And my girlfriend, she can see them. I can only see blips of them sometimes. And she's like, I was like, do they look like us? And she's like, Phil, because they have names, Danny, Phil, and Susie. And Phil looks like me, she says. And then Danny looks like both of us put together. And then Susie looks more like my girlfriend. And we have this protection/fertility deity that protects us, that was sent by her grandma who passed away. And one day it just popped into my head that I was like, do you think that maybe these 3 kids are like our future children? We just haven't like, been able to have them yet. And she's like, I don't know. I was like, well, ask Birdie, because that's what we call her. I was like, ask Birdie. And she was on the way home. She's like, why do you keep bringing us these kids? And she's like, do you not listen to your boyfriend at all? She was like, remember what he said? And she's like, oh, okay. So we think that we are surrounded by our future 3 children.
That's interesting, dude. I kind of like that. That's fascinating. Do you ever get offended when your grandpa gets bored of you and leaves?
I get
You're talking to him, he's like, all right.
I get offended. I get offended when he doesn't say goodbye. I'll ask a question and then I will get no response. And I'm like, is he here? And she's like, no, he left like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me that he's not here? So I do get mad when he doesn't tell me goodbye. And he also told me like the last time I talked to him, because it's been a couple months. I was like, the first thing he does when he comes in, he's like, you fucked up your face with that tattoo. I was like, good to see you too. It's been a few months. Where have you been? And he's like, I've been around. I said, really? You don't want to stop and talk to your favorite grandson anymore? He's like,
no, I just got back from my favorite grandson's house. Hey, that's why I'm here now.
You're the pit stop. I had to take a whiz. Yeah.
And
Is he
I
a
asked
dick?
him-
Is he funny? Is he like does he
He's-
tell like dad jokes?
he's hilarious because he will ask, like, if me and my girlfriend were sitting next to each other, he'll be like, "So, have you told her you loved her yet?" I was like, "Grandpa, shut up. No, not yet. We haven't reached that bridge yet, okay? Just relax."
I watched you hump her last week.
That's okay.
You
This
two
is
are
gonna be-
living insane.
Grandpa, yeah. Do you ever have like your? How about the spirit of your kids? Do they ever come in and like they're like, "Dad, you're gonna make me right now, Dad."
See,
What a
The
turn
funny-
on.
the funny thing is they call it wrestling, so they leave when we start to wrestle. But
Oh.
my great grandpa, when he first like started like I guess he's been allegedly coming to me ever since ever since he passed away. But the first time we actually knew it was my great grandpa was right after we got done, and he was literally in the corner watching us.
Was he giving you tips? He's like, "All right, son, come on."
He told me that I have a small ass, and that was literally the first thing he said to me. And then we watched Forrest Gump. Literally watched 2.5 hours of it and just talked. That was it.
It's not gay if you're a ghost.
Well, I asked my girlfriend, I was like, "Is that weird?" Like, she's like, "No, because they don't know that like I can see him sometimes. So they just stand there, and sometimes they do this to remember what
But
it's like to be
your
human."
girlfriend's into older dudes, and she's just sitting there watching Grandpa. Like you're in the middle of this, and you look down and see her, and she's like making eye contact with the wall. Like, where are you? What are you doing right now? It's just like
I don't know how I would take that.
also
know if I
like how does she like? She's like, "All right, kids, leave the room. We're gonna wrestle now." Like,
Well,
how does
I
that
don't know.
conversations go?
because
Does she like tell everybody to leave before?
well,
or-
it's funny because she can connect with him telepathically, so she doesn't have to say anything. She can just speak to him in her mind, and it's just like, well, what? Do they just know to leave? It's like she doesn't tell me. She's like, they just go. I was like, well, can I connect with them telepathically? And one day I tried, and they made fun of me because I got like the whole like Star Wars Force thing, like that, like trying to talk. No, they just laughed at me. It was not cool.
That's funny, man. I mean,
Yeah.
the chat's roasting you right now pretty good too.
I bet. And so as we were at the trail and we were having this conversation, and he's like, "I don't want you guys here. Leave now." And I was like, "No, I don't want to leave yet." And I just had what I asked him in my head, and I just forgot. But anyways, so it'll come back to me. So we left because I was like, well, I guess we'll be nice now, and left. And then we got
but where you were at, he was like, he looked at your girlfriend and goes, "It's time to come home." But
Yeah, to
after
her.
he had said like all the people that died, he's like, "I call them home." So he's basically
Mhm.
like looking at your girlfriend saying like, and he's gonna kill her and then have his way with her.
That's
That's
I'm
what
not.
I got
didn't-
from the story. What what did
That's
you
just
think
what
he was
that's
saying?
that's
Like,
how you would do it.
that's
yeah.
what I thought that thing was saying.
I didn't really connect the dots until you started.
I'd be
Now it's all
terrified. I'd be
making
like,
sense.
No. Minute,
I have to
yeah, dude, I'm
like
telling
all
you,
jokes aside, if you're seeing anything that looks close to a bull, you're talking a fertility god, and there's only one thing fertility gods are traditionally good at. So,
Mhm.
and by good I mean really like horribly good, I guess.
But I just had it again. Fuck. And so we
it's
leave the trip.
it's like home, the demon.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
And so we leave to go back home, and I get the bright idea to like, hey, let's go back there and let's use a Ouija board. And so we go back there, and we asked him that if we could use his Ouija board, and he was like, you can, but he's like, I'm not responsible for whatever happens to you. And
Who was this? I'm sorry, I missed it. Who was the guy that you're asking to use the Ouija board?
the demon at the trail. We went back home, grabbed
He
the
had
Ouija
a
board.
fucking Ouija board?
No.
I'm sorry.
I have the Ouija board.
Okay.
So we got back to my house. I thought it was a bright idea to go back there and use the Ouija board. And my girlfriend's like, yeah, let's do it. So we go back to the trail. I asked him for permission if we could use the Ouija board. He said yes, but I can't, like, whatever happens to you happens to you. I have no control over it. And
The Minotaur said this to you?
yeah. And
you
as-
still pulled it out?
well, I was about to until he said, but if you do, that thing over there, that spirit over there, he's ready to play with you guys. And you know, like the ranch rails, like from Yellowstone, that have like the top rail, the middle rail, and the bottom rail, and there's like no pickets in between. It's just the 3 rails. Well, it's that kind of fencing. And according to my girlfriend, that spirit was sitting on the middle post, swinging his legs. And I was like, no, not really gonna do that. And then so I started just talking to my girlfriend for just a little bit, like 5-10 minutes.
It's funny where you make boundaries. Like that was too much. Like this whole thing, for me, I'd be like, anyways, keep going. Sorry.
And so I'm talking to my girlfriend, and then like I see her peeking over my shoulder. And I'm like, what is she looking at? And then she looks at me and says, by the way, that thing that was on the fence is 5 feet from your car. And I have my window down. And I was like,
Does a ghost care if your window's down?
probably not, but that was my like safety barrier for
Yeah.
like at the moment. I was like, this is gonna keep me safe.
It's like when you pull the cover over your head. It's
Yeah.
like murderers can't get me now, right?
Mhm.
Like I won't burn in
Exactly.
the fire.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd had pocket salt on me. I'd be like, huzzah!
And so after that, I was like, yeah, we should probably, it's like midnight, 12:30. I was like, let's just call it a day and go home. And we start going back home. And right as we leave,
Dusty, do you have a day job? Because it sounds like you're just free all the time. You're like, it's midnight in the park. Let's grab a Ouija board.
well, I do. I just suffer at work because I work 10 hours a day. I work at a metal shop. Like basically what I do is M&M in 8 Mile minus the wrapping. That's basically what I do. And
I'm a machinist, dude. I think you make the metal and I turn them into parts. That's
see
fun. Yeah.
that's actually I run a CNC machine, and we cut the parts out for like John Deere, Toro, Polaris, like those companies, and we ship them off.
I do CNC machining as well. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So you know how awful it is.
Can I just mention
I
you just said John Deere, and we were talking about deer. You said Toro, as in Taurus, and then what else? What was the third one? Polaris, right?
Mhm.
Dude, these
So, I mean,
demons
It
have
feels like you're playing with demons all day, man.
Yeah, buddy.
And so I work from there from like 5 o'clock in the morning till like 3:15 at night, and it's awful, and I hate it just because it's so boring. But that's why I just suffer through work when this happens. And now, as we were leaving the trail, have you ever seen the horror movie Smile?
I have not.
Well, you know, like the
I've seen
movie,
it.
Shaking his head, yes.
you know the movie poster with the whole smile and everything. And she looks at me and she gives me that exact smile from that movie. Like,
Girlfriend does?
yeah, yeah. And
Am I sexy now? And you were like, oh shit.
and I look over at her, and it feels like my inner energy or like my inner aura like rises up out of my body and like towers over her. And this entire time I'm like, this isn't my girlfriend. Who is this? And then literally after that happens, she just busts out into like a normal fucking conversation, like nothing just happened, while I'm shitting bricks trying to keep my cool. And I didn't tell her anything. I let it like slide for like a week. I just didn't tell her. And
So your girl got possessed by something and then tried to fuck you?
well, get this. After I told her what happened a week later, she was like, yeah, I don't remember that part. There was a part when we were at the trail that night that I blacked out. I was like, that's just wonderful. Just
Would it
wonderful.
be cheating if you fucked the demon inside of her?
You're already going to the woods in the middle of the night to meet a guy named Carl, so you're halfway there.
Alexandros, thank you. He says it's dildo time.
But after that day, I thought, as I started, before I figured out it was a demon, I thought maybe it was like an Indian burial ground, because there is the town over like 20 minutes west of where I'm at, there is a reservation for the Dakota that they, that there's this massive casino that's all theirs, this whole land that's all theirs. And back in the day, there was a general, his name was General Dodd, and he lived a town over on the east side of where I'm at. And they named a highway after him. It's called Dodd Boulevard, and it runs all the way to Fort Snelling, which was the main base back in the day. And they think that the Dakota came from over by Shakopee, where the town is, and they killed General Dodd. So I thought maybe that there happened to be an Indian burial ground over there or something related to Native American culture. But after I found out it was a demon, I was just like, no way.
I mean, it might be. What is demon? You know what I mean? Like, what is? I mean, I'm sure he doesn't have your best interests in mind.
No.
So from our perspective, he seems like a demon. But
is it part of woke culture though? Is it like Native Americans aren't allowed to be demons now? Like they all have to be like beneficial to nature or something?
Dusty's thinking about the answer. I can tell you're Gen Z, aren't you? You got a definitely youngster. Yeah.
I hate.
Careful, he doesn't want to get canceled.
I just hate. What really woke people piss me off, like royally piss me off. Have you seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that came out in 2022?
No,
which is technically a movie about veganism.
Was it?
If you rewatch the movie, what they're doing is they're putting humans through the same process that you would put cattle through, going through a slaughterhouse, and it was almost like a political statement by the original writers of like, if this is a horror movie, then take a look at what you're doing to livestock. I mean the original one. So any remake of that is just, it's the same story.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
That's
I just thought it was gore porn the entire time.
I mean, if you really like gore, you could just go to like a slaughterhouse, right?
Yeah.
Again, back as a kid, man, I loved. There was a slaughterhouse down the corner, and I used to go hang out there all the time.
Jerk off,
but
like, yeah, I mean, I would buy all kinds of weird shit. This is when I was a youngster, wanted to be a cook. It was before I even started cooking. They would send me home with like eyeballs and assholes, and I would like take it home. And I had a big old like cookbook, and I'd make it. Yes, my sister called me Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So yeah, I'm glad someone else called you out on it.
Hey, Ed Gein's a state away from me. So me and my girlfriend plan on going to his grave in Wisconsin.
You busting out the Ouija board too?
Yes, I want to. But that would be breaking one of the rules of using a Ouija board. But I don't really care.
I didn't know there was rules.
Yeah,
I won't touch one, dude.
Not supposed to use it in the graveyard.
Not supposed to use it in a graveyard. Not supposed to use it alone. You have to be like in the right mind. You have to close the portal after you use it.
Yeah, you always have to say goodbye. That's that one.
Yeah.
I'm not touching this thing.
You gotta watch the Witchboard series from the 80s. They nail the rules.
What did Ed Gein even do? Wasn't Ed Gein just like a weirdo that would dig up? I might be thinking about the wrong person. Was
Ed Gein made those really nice lamps and wallets and stuff.
And the nipple belt.
But he wasn't killing people, right? Like he was like digging up corpses and making like sweet stuff, right? Like he'd make like
Etsy. He had like a dope Etsy shop.
I mean, nowadays, honestly, like he'd have to cure it the right way. But there's all kinds of oddity markets out there. He would make a killing, dude. He'd make a lot of money. I think he did end up killing a couple people though at the end, right? I think he was
cannibalistic, because I think it was him that got caught after he zombified someone. I think he like basically gave them a homemade lobotomy, and somehow they were able to escape, and they made it to the street, and they were able to flag somebody down. And I think that's how he got caught. Or I might be thinking of somebody else.
That sounds like Dahmer.
Talking about someone else. Yeah, I don't.
That sounds exactly like Dahmer.
Is that what Dahmer? Okay.
He was like doing that. Yeah, Dahmer was crazy. Dahmer was a bad guy. Ed Gein was just misunderstood.
That's a hill Nate's gonna die on. Yeah.
Speaking of Jeffrey Dahmer, if you go there, have you guys ever heard of the Murderbilia websites where you can buy like
Oh yeah.
serial killer? Well, there is. I was able to find. I didn't buy it, although I wanted to, but I didn't. There was a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer when he was like in handcuffs in the courtroom, and it was allegedly signed by him. That was going for like $5,000.
Yeah, there's some of those sites too. They'll take like his appeal, right? Like Jeffrey Dahmer's appeal, and they'll shred it, and they'll take like a little piece of the shred and put it in like a locket, and then you buy the locket for like $5. And they had like Ted Kaczynski's original manifesto, and they'll turn it into like a trading card and stuff.
Yeah,
capitalism.
Yeah, they also had like the BTK case. You guys have heard of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That shit baffles me. Like, why are you have to be so stupid to, like, the way he got caught was like, you fell into that trap, like, with not even asking questions. Like, that shit pissed me off when I watched the documentary.
It was like he got swindled by a Nigerian prince, but he was also like seen as some kind of mastermind killer. But then,
I mean, didn't he just? I might be completely wrong, but I thought he was just like writing a manifesto sort of thing, and he like sent it in. But I guess after like 9/11 or some fucking shit happened, right? Like every single printer like puts a little secret fucking like tag on it, right? And so like you can fucking, let's say I like wrote a fucking ransom note and I printed it. Like
theoretically,
printer, yeah, I definitely don't have a few. But your printer tells on you. It makes a little like watermark on it that's invisible to the eye. And I thought that's how he got caught. Like it was through his printer, because it was like a very specific printer. He was using his church's printer, right? And isn't that how he got busted, or what? What actually happened?
I think I can't remember if that was it or if it was a floppy disk that got him in trouble. I know a floppy disk had a play in him getting caught, but I can't fully remember, because I know he came back after he did his murder spree. He came back out in the early 2000s, I think, and he just randomly one day wrote a ransom note or about like the murders that he committed years ago, and then he started to commit a few of them. And then like he was just talking with the cops, and he sent them a floppy disk, and then it was like in the back seat of like a pickup truck in a cereal box in the bed of the pickup truck, and they were just somehow able to trace it all the way back to him working. I don't know if he was a minister or a priest. He had some sort of power.
He was a deacon. He was a deacon at the church. So he was kind of like, yeah, like an elder at the church.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up to see how he got caught, and this is wild. I never even heard this before, but it says that part of the reason he got caught is because he sent a box to a news channel in Wichita, Kansas, that included a Barbie doll acting out the murders. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I think that's, yeah.
I hope there's a deleted scene in the new Barbie movie with that part.
That would be so funny. And speaking of like, not really children's toys, but did you guys know that Disney World got most of their princesses, like the inspiration for their princesses, from Brothers Grimm?
Oh yeah.
I just found that out like a few months ago.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Dude, Brothers Grimm is a whole tangent, because I can make a very strong argument that the Brothers Grimm single-handedly reinvigorated German nationalism prior to World War I, and then Disney starts perpetuating that in the 30s and 40s, and it basically, without the Brothers Grimm then being inherited by Disney, we wouldn't even know like 90% of all of these old folklore stories, and a large majority of them are Germanic. So a lot of what we consider like American culture is really Germanic culture. It's a wild rabbit hole when you start going down that Brothers Grimm thing.
Yeah, I haven't really looked fully into them. I just know that like there are stories that they made about the princesses, and then how Disney took it. I was like, God damn, Disney. I feel like a lot of people don't even know that either.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do in a series called Occult Disney with my friend Matt Komiji's in Japan, and we cover a bunch of those. And the wildest one I think is Sleeping Beauty, because that story dates back, I think, the oldest out of any of them, and it used to be a girl that pricks her finger on like a flaxseed, and then that turns into gets poisoned by flax, and then it turns back into like pricks her finger, and that becomes the poison. It's like takes this weird mutating story, and then Disney like owns all of that
Flaxseed
now.
is gross.
Flaxseed?
Yeah, it's disgusting. It makes like.
Is this something you can prick your finger on?
No, I don't know how she did that. I think it's bullshit. Flaxseed is disgusting. So.
Idiot.
But yeah, it's just, and I just had in my head another thing. Fuck, what was it?
You were talking about Disney princesses and Brothers
Yeah.
Grimm.
Oh, I just had it.
And then we were talking about BTK right before that.
We were talking about BTK. Were you going to talk about some serial killer?
We can talk about some serial killers.
Well, I'm kind of curious, man. You kind of left us on like a cliffhanger. Whatever happened with this Minotaur?
Well, we after that night, after that smile, and after she told me she blacked out, we haven't gone back since, and it's been a few months. But we plan on going back, just because some of the things that he said were a little like unnerving, and a lot of people think that like, because a lot of people base their whole demon possessions off of mainstream media and like what happens in that aspect. It's not like that at all. They can just, if they feel like entering inside of you, they just can. And the whole attachment thing, that's what kind of pisses me off about the Warrens, is just because they're kind of bullshit on what they pushed and everything that they did. And
Explain
just them
to people and myself. I mean, of course, I know everything. Who the fuck are the Warrens? Who are we talking about?
Ed and Lorraine Warren from Amityville, The Conjuring 1, 2, 3, Annabelle, all of that. They're kind of a mini cult.
You're talking the real people that the
The real
Amityville
people.
horror is based on?
Yeah, the real people.
Which, by the way, is the same county, Babylon, New York, as this latest serial killer is from.
Really?
Yeah, Amityville. It's in Babylon, New York.
That's interesting. I didn't even know serial killers were still a thing until I came
Dude,
across the thing.
The amount of serial killers that come from Long Island in particular is crazy. Like there's something in the water. The water, you should say.
There's one suspected in Portland right now, dude. It's pretty interesting. There's like some ladies, I think, that are going missing.
A few years ago in Minneapolis, it was right once I moved down to Atlanta, so my family told me about it. And there was a serial killer that was out here. I don't know. I haven't heard anything on it. This is just hearsay, but I heard from people, and I didn't look it up on the news because I didn't really care about it at the time. So I'm going to have to look into it now. But there is this guy that was going around killing people, and he was like, like the spike fencing that are like at Gothic houses. He was decapitating them and putting their heads on those spike fences.
That's cool.
Send a message.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, that's a good spot. Yeah,
you don't got to ask twice about what that one means.
And it was funny because there was one after one of his victims the next morning. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. This jogger was going out for a run and noticed it. Imagine starting your day off with that.
There was some periods in time when a lot of people probably did start their day out exactly like that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the Warrens are complete. Like, they're, from my research and from me and my girlfriend researching it, we found out that Ed got a 15-year-old pregnant, made her get an abortion because they didn't want it coming back on them and ruining their reputation. They pushed that Amityville was real, and turns out it was actually a hoax. And then the whole Enfield poltergeist that The Conjuring 2 is based off of, they didn't even help out. They were there they arrived there one day, knocked on the door, and they were only there for a couple of hours before they were forced to be kicked out off the property because they were unwanted. And when they were writing their books and everything on people's experiences, they forced the authors to just make it make sense. If you have to make shit up, just make it up. Like, who cares? And then this is really interesting because Ed died, I think, in 2009. I could be wrong, but I think it was 2009. And Lorraine was on the set for every Conjuring universe movie that was out there. Well, specifically the main ones. And she made everybody on set, the directors, the writers, the actors, she made them all sign an NDA that in this movie they can't portray sexual abuse, sexual assault, physical abuse, because it also came out that Ed used to beat Lorraine. And a lot of people now are starting to realize that Annabelle might be fake. Like, it might not have anything attached to it, because the priests that blessed the house where the nurses stayed at, and the priest that would go and bless the house when they took Annabelle back to their home, they never came out and said anything about the movies or their role. And allegedly one day this couple was going to the occult museum and they made fun of Annabelle, and on their way home they got into a car accident. Well, they're on a motorcycle and they smashed straight into a tree. The boyfriend died and the girl barely made it out. They never came out about anything about the movies, and most of the movies that they released in the Conjuring universe always had a lawsuit against them for flipping the story. It's not accurate. But then again, that could also be maybe people were just a little money hungry. So that one's kind of wishy-washy. But yeah, they have all of this stuff that's coming out about them.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, I'm not even super familiar with the story. I remember watching the Amityville Horror, like the old movie that was that like made in the 80s or 70s. Like, it seemed pretty fucking old to me.
I think it was 79.
And that was an interesting movie. It was kind of scary. Like, I mean, I have vague memories of this, and I was probably stoned off my ass. I watched so many movies when I was so many horror movies when I was stoned.
The book is pretty creepy too. I'm trying to remember what the name of the book was that a lot of that was based on.
Well, it's weird because the family that moved in and allegedly had those paranormal experiences and moved out after like 24 days or something like that, every family that has moved into that house reported nothing. There is no paranormal, like anything paranormal going on here. So
interesting. They might be schizos like you and your girlfriend too.
Probably.
I guess the book was just called the Amityville Horror. Yeah, 1977, and then they started making movies on it 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, we need a follow-up. You need to go back. You need to bust out the Ouija board. You probably should live stream this. You should probably live stream this if you get coverage, like cell phone coverage, out in the middle of this fucking park, right where there was that little weirdo swinging his legs.
Yeah.
And,
I should go befriend him is what I should do. We should just be best friends. I have this weird like thing that I want to do. I want to make a demon my bitch just to see if it's possible, but I don't think it's ever going to be possible.
it might be possible, dude, but like, what if you fuck up? Like, because you're not going to get it your first try. Like,
Totally not.
You don't know, but dude, beginner's luck is a real thing.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
You know how dope it would be to just walk around in public and like if somebody makes fun of you, you could just look at your demon and be like, sick him, and he just goes and fucking attacks the person. Like, that'd be so dope.
I mean, this is kind of like what I think like alchemists have been trying to do forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is this is almost too like sounds like the jinn too, like people trying to control the jinn and trying to get them to do things for them.
Well, not just.
Here we go. I love it. Thank you, Five Leaf Clover.
That's
Solomon had a stable. That's true, man. He had his demons ready.
And there was like Franciscan friars or something that also were summoning they said they weren't demons, or if they were demons, it wasn't an affront to God, because there's some places in the Bible where they say that Jesus cast out the demons, and if Jesus is allowed to command demons to do things, then by that logic, these priests are allowed to command demons to like go clean out the stables or something.
Dusty McBalls, I mean, this will just be my little warning to you. I kind of think that this always ends badly, but this might
Mhm.
also be entertaining. So maybe if you do this, live stream it.
Yeah, you're gonna probably see me get fucking possessed and become extremely feral and run off in the woods naked as fuck.
Think
Just
of the
live
views,
there.
bro. We
I
can.
might.
I'm looking right now on the Amityville Horror Wikipedia page. It's like 30 plus movies. I mean, dude.
My girl
Yeah.
Cherie, this guy is just so irreverent and irresponsible, in my opinion. Yes, Cherie, yes, he is. And I'm
I mean,
encouraged.
so was Evil Knievel, but I mean, you know,
It's fun. It's fun. Like, at least we're not okay. So there's this place that's haunted. That's like 30
Does
minutes.
your
it's
grandpa
in-
ever talk about your neck tattoo too? Is he like
No, he
just
hasn't said
this one?
anything.
This one bothers him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
But
old
now my
fucker.
family doesn't like when I say I'm gonna do something. Now they believe me that I'm actually gonna do it. So.
I believe you too, Dusty McBalls.
But there's this like old rundown mill in like the north side of Minneapolis, and it's abandoned. Like you can't go in there. And for some fucking reason, ever since it went abandoned probably in like the 80s, but ever since like 2004, for some fucking reason, dumbass college students want to go to the 10th floor. They're just drawn going to the 10th floor with whatever negative entity that lives there. And
Can it not get upstairs? How did it get there to begin with?
I don't. Maybe it just died up there and
Died
just,
up
it's
there?
stuck.
So
Yeah.
maybe it can't get downstairs, and it's
That's-
only up there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that could be it.
Okay.
And for some reason, these dumbass college students love to go to the 10th floor. And every person that goes to the 10th floor either dies or snaps their legs. Like we went there one night, and a week later, we found out in the news that a dude went there by himself, somehow got in because this place is like impenetrable. Like it is hard. I went there with bolt cutters and tried to break in, and I couldn't get in
you're
there. So
like,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
break my legs tonight. This is
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
great.
I don't know how he got in there, but he somehow got in, and he decided to go to the 10th floor. He fell through the elevator shaft and snapped both of his legs.
Hell yeah. That's a fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So are you now testing fate, Dusty McBalls? Are you trying to
I
get
like
on
where
the
this is
10th floor?
going.
We did. So one time we did test fate pretty bad, and there's a legend that there's this graveyard like in the middle of nowhere where a witch was allegedly born, or not born, buried. She wasn't born in the graveyard, but buried. And she was buried with the axe that decapitated her. And if you jump over her grave, you die within 3 days, kind of like some Ring type shit. And we went there, and as we were leaving, me and my girlfriend both got scratched. I got one on the
guys
side of my
playing
neck. And
hopscotch?
yeah. I mean, we're still here, so we didn't, we got scratched, but we didn't die, thankfully.
Well, not yet. This could be like some Final Destination shit too.
Okay.
That might be
Yeah.
too open of a reference at this point. But Final Destination is where like a bunch of young kids avert death by like canceling a plane ticket at the last second or like swerving out of the way of a car, but then death is just following them around for like the rest of their lives.
I forced my mom to watch all of them with me.
Okay.
The one scene with the fucking rock at the barbershop through the rock, and then it smokes the girl in the face. That one did a number on me. I don't know why just that one, but that one was like, no.
I'm a sucker for the log scene just because everyone's been behind a semi with like some loosely packed
Mhm.
crap on the back and known that people die this way, you know?
Mhm. One of the weirdest deaths that I covered in one of my episodes was this lady that fell. Like, I feel this would be an awful way to die, but if you got to heaven and like this was explained to you, I would be shocked. Like, she fell into like a molten vat of like caramel, and like burned alive. Like for me, that would be the most awful way to go. And especially since I work in like a machinery kind of area, I was paranoid for a week after hearing that, after doing my research on it.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one. That was in Japan, right?
That was in Russia. The one in Japan was with the what is it? Fuck. The radiation place where they make uranium and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was
I
interesting.
completely yeah. I don't know how he lived for 83 days. That shit baffles me still.
Do you think he had superpowers for part of that time, and they just don't want to tell anyone about it?
Probably. From what was said, he did look like a skinned chicken going in there.
That
It doesn't sound like a great trade-off, but
I mean, it really depends on what powers you have. What if you had powers, but you were in excruciating pain all the time? But you're basically Superman. Would you take it?
No.
yeah, I don't think Superman gets to take a day off either. That sounds like a horrible job.
Yeah. I just watched Smallville. Just finished it for like, this is my first time ever watching it. So like my Superman knowledge right now is just like still little, not a whole lot, but it was entertaining.
I think any fucking show from the CW is pretty gay. Isn't that Smallville? Except, you know what? I loved and I watched I think every episode except maybe the final season of Supernatural. That was a fucking great show, man. I love that show.
It was really not that great, but whatever.
I loved it, dude.
Smallville was great, and so was the Wall of Weird, where like the chick that got sent to jail was the conspiracy theorist of that show.
I didn't see that one.
You're trying to tell me that Smallville is better than Supernatural?
Smallville. What was her name? Allison Mack. She's the one that went to jail for the NXIVM cult.
Yeah.
The NXIVM cult. Well, in Smallville, she is the paranormal research investigator. Like she is that archetype throughout the entire show, and she's got this Wall of Weird, and she writes for like the high school newspaper or something. But she is like what you are, Dusty. Like she's that person in the world of Smallville.
I thought Wallworld was like a different TV show for a second, and then it clicked with me after you started explaining it more. I was like, oh God. But yeah.
That was an interesting lady and an interesting case. What do you guys think about the NXIVM cult?
I think it's funny as fuck. I think all sex cults are funny.
I don't think you can have a cult without it being a sex cult. Like there's like on a very serious level, once you get to the very height of the cult, it seems like that's always the goal. It's always going to be a dude, and he's always going to be like, "All right, now I gotta bang my pick of the litter." And
I will say
every cult.
The one cult that I can think of that is not like that. So maybe
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, Heaven's Gate. Yeah, he was an asexual. He's trying to get people to chop his nuts off.
Yeah, but that one was the inverse of that, and it was like if I can't get laid, nobody's getting laid. So it was, I don't know. I still put it in the same category. It was just like a reverse Uno version of a sex cult.
What do we think is in the Kool-Aid?
I mean, technically, it was what, cyanide, and it was Flavor Aid and Kool-Aid, I believe.
Did you know that the Iceman? What is his name?
The
mobster. The mobster that was a hitman. He was a hitman for the mob.
He had a very, very Polish last name. Kalicki or something like that. But
yeah, it was something like that. And he would just randomly, he got involved with cyanide, and what he would do is he put it into a mist, and he would go and just spray it on pedestrians to see how it would react.
Just a little Jesus juice.
And then the CIA was like, "You're hired. We need to do this on a bigger scale."
Yes.
I mean, that's if you think there's any difference between the mob and the CIA, dude. I think they're like one on one.
They did work with each other for a while. They wanted to get the government wanted to use the mob to get Castro, I think, if my memory serves me right.
I mean, I'm not talking shit about the mob, but I feel like they're kind of like the boomers at this point. Like, I think like the cartel is like way more hardcore than the mob at this point.
Yeah.
I think like the mob is like they've made their money. They're like comfortable now. They're just like Guidos that like tan too much and still wear like gold glasses and stuff and just want to like, I don't know. I mean, at this point they're fat and happy. Like, I don't think they need to kill people anymore. Like,
no, I think right now that they're on a hiatus and they're going to pop back up within the next like 10, 15 years or something like that. I feel like they're going to reappear.
The world has changed too much. And if they haven't been keeping up with it, like, I feel like the world is so like surveilled at this point that if they don't have hardcore, like, basically government allowing them to do what they do, it's the same thing with the cartels, dude. Like, you think the cartels are like fucking gangsters? Like, yeah, they definitely are. They're fucking psychos and shit, but like,
Their kids are.
they're not getting any drugs into the country. I mean, they're not going to get the amount of drugs that they want into this country without the government's help. The government allows that shit.
I saw this thing where it was this guy who used to be a drug mule for the not the mafia, for the cartel, and he said like more than half of the border patrol agents were making an extra $400,000 on their yearly salary being paid by the cartel so they could push drugs into the US.
Not shocking at all.
No.
Also, if they say no, they're just going to get shot.
Yeah.
Well, and here in Florida and Clearwater, for the longest time, there still is huge Scientology presence. And for a while, there was a controversy because the Church of Scientology was paying police officers more to moonlight for Scientology events than they were getting paid a salary by the state to do the same jobs. So there was this conflict of interest of like, you might not be arresting the people that are going to be hiring you later that same night and then paying you 3 times your salary to do it. So, I mean, and I was going to say too, when you say like, the mafia is going to make a resurgence, I mean, that's where the Pelosi name came from. That's where the Kennedy name came from. I'd almost say that like the Clintons are just kind of like the newer version. They're like the yuppie scum version of the mafia, kind of.
I mean, that's what I say about there's no difference between the mafia and the government because they're one and the same. They act the same way. And so, like, certain families are allowed to, like the Kennedy family. They started out during Prohibition. They were fucking, like, alcohol runners. They were Irish gangsters. They were fucking psychos. But they did such a good job. They established themselves into the WASP elite. And so they, like, it's like if you do a good enough job. And it's hardcore because, like, most of them won't make it, but if you do it just right, you play your cards just right, they can work their way into the elite's like structure, like exactly like the Pelosi crime family, dude. Like, what are those other ones? What are those Goomba morons? Who was the governor of New York? Thomas, what's his name?
Oh, the one that had the sexual assault allegations.
Bloomberg?
No. Governor, not mayor. His brother was on CNN.
Oh yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
The Goomba brothers.
Yeah, the Goomba brothers, dude.
Like, it's hard word to see. Whatever. Fuck that family.
Yeah, but fuck that family, exactly. But his dad, I think, was a gangster too. I think like that whole family are like. Anyways, yeah, they established themselves and they have an air of credibility about them eventually. But yeah, it's interesting. Government mafia. What the fuck was I going to say? I don't even remember. God damn it.
Cuomo. There we go.
Cuomo. Yeah,
that was gonna bug me.
That fucking family, dude.
Yeah.
They're old time fucking gangsters too.
Well, that's how, because JFK's dad, he was a part of I wouldn't say he was a part of the mob, but he was affiliated with the mob, and he was able to have Chicago and Illinois swung in JFK's favor if JFK would lay off the mob. And what happened was that they were going to do that. But Bobby Kennedy decided to go after the mob a few years later, and that's what got JFK killed.
Maybe.
I think that's what got JFK killed, but
I think there was a lot of people that wanted him dead.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that was a factor, but I think the CIA also wanted him fucking dead. But again, CIA, mafia, one and the same. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Interesting shit. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Dusty McBalls, this has been a fucking fun one, dude. You've been on here
Thank
for an
you.
hour and a half. We got some other shit to do, and dude, we appreciate you. This was a fucking fun one. If anybody wants to hear more about your like demonic stories with your girlfriend and all that stuff, I encourage you to get your girl on the show and like really go hard and like have some fucking fun, because I think there's something interesting and fun in this. Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Why don't you tell our audience one more time what's the name of your show? Where can they find you? How can they support you? Dusty McBalls.
You can find me on Instagram at The Rainy Day Horror Show, or if you want to get real personal with me, Dusty McBalls. And you can find me on Spotify, Amazon, whatever. I'm basically on all of the fucking podcast streaming sites as The Rainy Day Horror Show. And yeah, that's basically it. I just want to, thanks for letting me on. I appreciate it. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy coming on and sharing the story. Just nobody go to the trail and try to shun this demon away, because I don't want it to come attached to me. Thank you very much. Oh, and if you do live in Minneapolis or Minnesota, I am going to Crypticon in September. So stop by, say hi to me.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, at this point, like once you gather enough people and you start getting a little sweet audience, you should take a whole group of people down to that trail. I think that would be
and then
charge him
pawn
like $60 a head. Yeah, give him like
and
a Coke.
And then pawn him off to the demon so he can have them. Perfect. I love that idea.
All right, man. This was fun. Thomas, what are you promoting tonight?
Actually, if you check my YouTube channel out, Paranoid American, this Sunday I'm dropping an adrenochrome documentary. It's about 20 minutes long, although for YouTube it's going to be called Thrill Oxide, Stonecutters, and MK Ultron, because the words Freemasonry, adrenochrome, and MK Ultra kept getting flagged on YouTube. They kept sending me nasty little warnings.
You can't even say Freemasonry?
I had to, well, I could say it, but then it would give that stupid little blurb under the video that's like, this video talks about Freemasons, and here's a link to the... So, and dude, even in order to do this documentary, I couldn't have the word adrenochrome on the screen at any point. So I had to go and blur the fucking word from like 80 different edits. It took me forever, but you can see the unedited version on Rockfin. It's a premium on Rockfin. You can see it on my Patreon, or you can watch the edited version that is going to be on YouTube on Sunday. So that's the big one. Go check Thrill Oxide, Stonecutters, and MK Ultron. I'm pretty sure if you search Thrill Oxide, it'll be the only video that pops up, and I'm going to make that a thing. So Thrill Oxide is now the safe YouTube version. And actually, on that same note too, I've been working on this website called occultdecode.com, and you can put in any naughty, bad social media word you want, and it'll give you like the friendly version. So like blood turns into grape juice, sexual assault turns into like an unfriendly hug. There's like all these different ways that you can, it's like unalive. People say unalive on the true crime podcast instead of saying like murder or dead sometimes. So yeah, if you ever need to figure out what the hell these guys are talking about, yeah, thank you, Sherry. July 23rd at 2:20. Oh wow, what a coincidence! That was totally unintentional.
I love it, man. Thank you both, gentlemen. This was a blast. Everybody go check out Dusty McBalls. He has some fun episodes on there. And everybody go check out the Oxide. God damn it. This is when my internet decides to shit the bed. Anyways, I love everyone. Thank you guys. Have a good night.